a Manousso Musing with Kevin Dorsey of OurFamilyWizard.com. That is our topic for today, part of the series, Manousso Musing with seasoned mediator trainer, Dr. Barbara Manousso. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hi, everyone. This is attorney Mac Pierre-Louis, lawyer, mediator, arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia advocate, mediator, and arbitrator from Warsaw, Poland.
And I'm Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso, mediator, arbitrator, and trainer worldwide. And I'm very happy today to have as our guest Kevin Dorsey. And Kevin Dorsey is kind of a rock star. He is so well known by everybody around the world because he represents Our Family Wizard. And it's a marvelous tool, an absolute necessity, as far as I'm concerned, for families who are going through a divorce or as they flow from their divorce and move into a new normal for them. And so, Kevin, I'd like you to talk to us today. Welcome. Thank you for being here. And first, describe what our wizard looks like and what are some of the resources of it that are helpful for families that keep the conflict down, but keep everybody on task and keep the family united in the best interest of the children.
Sure. First of all, thanks for having me. Glad to be back. So I'm Kevin from Our Family Wizard. And to answer your question, Our Family Wizard is specifically designed for co-parenting communication. How it was started was a parent of divorce, was a father of divorce, was handing a notebook back and forth with his co-parent. And they missed a pickup on Christmas. This was the late 90s. And World War III breaks out between the two. This is when he comes up with the idea of, let's get this on the internet. Let's find a way to have this in a centralized place so we're not handing a notebook back and forth, so we don't miss pickups. So he starts a .com, and flash forward to today, 21 years later, 22 years later, it's used as mostly a smartphone app by parents who use it in lieu of email, text, voice calls. They do all of their co-parenting communication through an app, and it gives them the tools they need to learn to communicate better and to successfully communicate about their children. We are child focused. We want to get the kids out of the middle. A lot of times Our Family Wizard can prevent the note being shoved in the child's backpack or miscommunications being made. So the main features are messaging. What makes our messaging unique is you can't delete a message after it's sent. There's read receipts. So if I sent you a message, you open it, I will see date and timestamp when it's read, or also if it hasn't been read. And then you can create reports of the messages. So you have authenticated records in case you were to litigate. You've got all the messages in one place. Everything's authenticated. We have a calendar. What's unique about our calendar, people will say, I'll use Google Calendar, I'll use Outlook. Those are not designed for co-parenting. So we have a calendar that's specifically designed for co-parenting where they can put in their parenting time schedule. They can schedule events, who's dropping off, who's picking up. Holidays, there's always pressure around holidays. If they have to split up certain holidays, birthdays, those can override the parenting schedule. They can make trades. So one of the big things we're keen on is reducing excessive litigation. And what we see is people end up back in court for time modifications. And sometimes they're simple time modifications, like we want to switch a weekend or we want to switch a day. So we've got a trade tool within the calendar so they can propose trades. I could propose a trade to you. You could accept it. You could counter offer it. Once it's accepted, it's automatically changed on the schedule. So that calendar is very convenient. On their phone with the app, they can look and see, do I have the kids overnight? Am I picking up or dropping off from soccer practice? Things like that. We also have an expense log. So think about all the cases where you need to be reimbursed for medical, dental, school supplies. Again, something like soccer practice or sports equipment, maybe even school lunch. So we allow people to take pictures of receipts, request reimbursement. They can even link up their checking accounts and send money through the site. And then the last piece I'll touch on is an area called My Files, or excuse me, it's called Info Bank. And in the Info Bank, they can put things like shirt size, shoe size, blood type, immunization records, health insurance numbers. So it's a centralized place for all the family information, which I've talked to intact families and said, we need something like this.
Yeah.
And it can pull some of the pressure out. I'm sure you can think of examples of when it would be helpful to have the health insurance number in a centralized place.
And thank you for that. And I do remember that one of the advantages of that is that then all the printouts from the system are easily accessible by the courts, by the judges, are credible because of the real-time notifications and real-time adjustments to everything what's happening in the app. However, you know that we're concentrating on conflict resolution. The channel and the podcast we're doing is lawyers and mediators. We have talked what lawyers can do with ourfamilywizard.com. What can mediators do with this tool when you think about it?
That's a really good question. We were talking about this right before we jumped on the air. With mediation, mediators have a half day, a full day, maybe a couple days with the family. They come to an agreement and then they're hands off. They're on to the next mediation, and this family is off to try to be successful co-parents. So how does our Family Wizard fit into that equation? It is one of the tools at your disposal, just like something like therapy, anger management, SoberLink. Our Family Wizard is one of those tools in your toolbox to say, let's agree in the mediation agreement to communicate through our Family Wizard going forward, so that when the mediator's done, they're ensuring success for that family down the road. And so they get more referrals, right? That family's going to say, hey, we had this great mediator. We've been successful in our communication. One of those pieces is our Family Wizard that's helping us communicate better. So you're going to get more referrals, and you have the peace of mind knowing that this family that you've come to an agreement with has a better chance at being successful down the road.
And Kevin, thanks again for coming back. You may recall this, this has been a while since we did this recording with you. It was on the intersection of high-tech stalking and domestic violence, just to show folks just how far the Our Family Wizard app goes. And that is, you have a anti-stalking feature built into the app. Could you remind us of that? And if people want to watch the full interview, they can go to the Lawyers Mediators International podcast on YouTube and then click on the multiple videos you've done in the past. But can you refresh our recollection about some of the other not so well-known features of the app, such as this?
Sure. Yeah, that's a really good point. So we have a lot of cases where there's been domestic violence between partners. There's been harassment. There's been stalking, cyber stalking. So what our Family Wizard provides is a safe place to communicate. A couple of things that come to mind. Let's say I'm on there with my co-parent. I don't have to reveal my address if I've moved to a new place. I don't have to reveal my phone number or email. Because a lot of the times they've moved to a new house, they've gotten a new cell phone number. It allows them to communicate safely without revealing their new location and their contact information. And that's a big thing in these cases where they're thinking, is he going to show up to my new house and be outside? And giving people the peace of mind that they're communicating in a safe place. And then we also have a feature called check-ins, which is relatively new. So if they do want to share their location for one time, let's say they're doing a custody exchange, a parenting time exchange, they can share their location and prove they were there at a certain place. And that has different levels of permission. You could choose that to keep that private, so only you see it, so that you do have this record of being on time, being at the right location for an exchange. And you can also choose to share it with your co-parent. What's unique about that, it's geo-fenced, meaning think about it like a Facebook check-in, but it's limited to within 500 feet of where your cell phone is. Because we've had people, outside of these apps try to say they were somewhere when they weren't. And what this allows them to do is prove where they were at that time. If I pulled it up right now, I'd be able to check in at my house. It would drop a pin. I could attach a picture of where I am, and I'll be able to see when my co-parent sees it for the first time. So think about those families that said, well, I was on time and she wasn't. We couldn't find each other. The exchange never happened. Who knows who's telling the truth? With that check-ins feature, you could even put that in a mediation agreement if they're having issues with that. Say you are to use check-ins when you're doing parenting time exchanges.
That's really wonderful that you've got so many bells and whistles that people can communicate even without a close communication, where it could be dangerous, as you said, for domestic violence cases, which here in Houston, it's been terrible the last couple weeks of all the events that have happened. And but they are tools and bells and whistles that move the family forward in a very positive way. So what else would you like people to know about the features of our Family Wizard? What does it cost? What does it look like? How do they access it? Is it something they want to access before they go to mediation? Do they want to wait till after mediation? Sometimes a court might appoint it, but tell us from your perspective, how has it best been used?
Okay, yeah, I'll start with the pricing question. So the base price is $99 US per year per parent.
Reasonable.
We think it's super reasonable. We've kept it at that price for 20 years.
Oh.
We know people are going through a time that they might have litigated for several $1,000s. So we want to have it at a price point where they know they're getting a service, where they're going to have live customer support on the phone, that their practitioners have people like me supporting them. But that's not so astronomical that we're putting them out a lot of money. So what we found is that's a good price point where people feel like they're getting a good service at a reasonable price. We do have some upcharges. One option, and this is a feature that people get a kick out of, is called tone meter. So tone meter, it's like an emotional spell check.
Oh.
So while you're typing your message, you get feedback on your tone. So think of it like, how Microsoft Word will flag your grammar or spelling as you go? It's similar to that, but it's flagging your tone. So if I type a swear word, it's going to say that's aggressive. But it picks up on passive aggressiveness. So if I type, don't be late as usual, it'll say that's humiliating. And so what we found is as people are getting feedback on their tone, it switches their way of thinking. Their emotions come down and their logic comes up. And we're hoping they'll go back and rewrite it. Instead of saying, don't be late as usual, they'll say, please be on time. So that's $10 a year, nominal fee. A lot of people have that turned on. You might put it in your mediation agreement. You might put it in your court order. And then one other thing they can pay a little bit more for is the most they're going to pay is $140 a year, and that'll include tone meter. And then they can link up their checking accounts and send money through the site as well. So that takes the stress out of, we've heard stories where, let's say I give a check to my co-parent, but she doesn't cash it. And then she says he never gave me the check, things like that. Or some people are already paying for certified checks. So this gives them the peace of mind that everything's been done from when the reimbursement was requested, when it was accepted, when the funds were sent, and when they were deposited. So you have that entire start to finish within our Family Wizard. You don't need to pull bank accounts or Venmo or PayPal or Zelle, cash, check. There's a million ways to pay each other now. And we call it OFW pay. This is a way for them to have
Wow.
all in one place, start to finish, their expenses.
And what would you say to those who think they might be intimidating, because it's still that might be a form of like chasing them? How would you persuade them that this is something that actually gives them safety rather than creating a threat for them, especially, and maybe that is something that's worth just like bringing to light for victims of family violence?
Sure. Really good question, Natalia. And we deal with that a lot. Like, people who've been through family violence, they're paranoid for a very good reason. They're going to be afraid their account's been hacked, that, he's got some way to know where I'm going to be, things like that. I don't want to link my checking account up. Just know that we're aware of all that. We don't share the bank account numbers with each other. It's a safe place to communicate. Our site has so much security, it's probably safer than your bank. And so we just know with that much sensitive information that we have to be super careful. Even someone who's bad with technology, someone might say, I'm not very good with technology. He hacked my Facebook. Isn't this just another way where I could be taken advantage of? Just know that they're going to be safer within our Family Wizard because it's a closed system. There's so many ways to hack email, text, send fake phone calls, send fake texts. So even if they're not good with technology, they're going to be a lot safer within our Family Wizard because it's a closed system, because everything's recorded step by step. So yeah, we get that question a lot, and we've done our due diligence to make sure it's a safe place for people that have gone through family violence.
Yeah. And Kevin, refresh my memory. Do you guys provide a sample language that lawyers and mediators can use when they're drafting up documents so that everyone can be on the same page?
Yep, that's really important. I call it the golden ticket. I'd say 80 to 85% of people using our Family Wizard have agreed to it in mediation, have been court ordered to use it, or their attorneys have agreed, through stipulating to it. Anybody can sign up, but we found that to get both parents on board, it's good to have it agreed to. So we do have specific language. We have a sample court order and we have a sample mediation agreement, and it spells out those different features I went through. And you can kind of, if you're drafting an agreement, you can kind of pick and choose. They're fine with their expenses, but they could use the tone meter. Their communication's great, but they've had issues with their expenses. Let's focus on making sure they use OFW pay. So you can email me, kevin@ourfamilywizard.com, and I'm happy to send that to you. So we have a sample court order, sample mediation agreement, and yeah, it's the golden ticket to getting both people on board.
And could I follow up?
Yeah.
What about when one party agrees to use it, but they don't bother downloading the app?
Yep. So, we can't force people to use the site, but we can document what their movements are. So if they end up back in court and one parent's downloaded it, they're sending messages, they're not getting replies, we could show the sign-in history that the other side signed up and never used it, never signed up and only sent one message and then stopped replying. So, a lot of families we help communicate better, but for that upper echelon high conflict, we'll at least be able to tell the story, for better or for worse, that, okay, one parent signed up and the other one didn't, and we can go from there.
Well, Kevin, that's really a very valuable opportunity for people to have our Family Wizard, so that they have kind of a partner. That's what you basically come down to. You are that silent partner, a recording what's happening. Somebody can't say, well, they didn't do well. You have reality for them where they can really have objective criteria of what they are actually doing, not what somebody's opinion or fantasy or meanness might intrude on the scenario. So it's very, very, very helpful. What would you say is the record as far as, do you have any stories that you can relate, that people maybe had been in divorce and didn't have our Family Wizard, and they have something, a testimonial to you on how it really changed the dynamics of the relationship. Families are together forever, and they
Yep.
sometimes lose sight of that, I think, as they go forward in their divorce. So, do you have some example? I'm sure you have many,
Yeah, I've got
but
a
one
lot.
that might be a plum for right now.
Yeah, I can give you two. First of all, quickly, when I tell people about it, one of the responses I hear quite often is, "Oh, I wish I had that for my divorce." You know, I went through a divorce 30 years ago, 20 years ago, and this would have been so helpful. And then what always warms my heart, I go to a lot of family law conferences, and sometimes there will be other conferences adjacent to us, unrelated. And I've had people walk up and they kind of look at our Family Wizard booth and they say, you know, I'm not with this conference, but I use our Family Wizard. And I got to tell you, this has saved my life, you know, and it's almost like with a tear in the eye type of thing, because it's such an emotional time. And when people feel like they're being lied to, they're being manipulated, when we give them, like you said, a transparent place to communicate, where our thing is we're not prejudicial to either parent. We give them the tools to successfully co-parent and then tell that story. And so when you have the dad, the mom come up to your booth and say, this saved my life. You know, without this, we wouldn't be able to co-parent, and we'll be using it till the last kid turns 18. So, and that's happened to me a handful of times. And yeah, and we've had people who have been on our Family Wizard for 16, 17 years, you know, until their kid ages out. And it is, I think oftentimes we focus on the parents in these cases. And when you kind of strip away that, the idea is to be child focused, to help these families who are living separately thrive. And we're a piece of that puzzle. And we just hope at the end of the day that it's taking pressure off the child, that on their birthday, there's less pressure. When they come home from back to school shopping, they have the right size shoes on and it doesn't become an argument. That when it's Christmas or Thanksgiving, it's clear whose houses they're going to be at, and that pressure is removed.
Kevin, that's a wonderful wrap. Thank you so much for being our guest today on Manousso Musing. And that has been with Kevin Dorsey of Our Family Wizard. Thank you so much for your information and resource. It's just a remarkable, remarkable tool for anybody going through divorce. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And see you soon. Bye.